From Caterpillars to Butterflies, Episode 3, Idioms That Limit Your Thinking.
Welcome to the From Caterpillars to Butterflies Personal Growth Podcast. Just like the caterpillar is destined to become a butterfly, you too are designed for a beautiful transformation. This is where you go to grow and transform your life. And now, here's your host, Certified Life Coach, Charlene Dior.
Hey, thanks for joining me for this episode of From Caterpillars to Butterflies, where we're talking about idioms. We're talking about those sayings that have traveled with you throughout your childhood and have been secretly programming limiting beliefs and fears into your subconscious, which has in turn impacted the way that you have lived your life up until this point. So I want to call out these idioms, and I've grouped them into a couple of categories. So I'll just run through the categories that I have here for you, and we'll talk a little bit about what these idioms are really saying to us, because some of them sound super innocent, but they're not so innocent. The first category is that money and resources are scarce. So I think we have all heard the idiom that money does not grow on trees. Usually this comes when you are asking for something that costs money. And so your parents or your grandparents say, we can't afford that because money doesn't grow on trees. And they're right. Money does not grow on trees. And by saying that, what it basically does is shuts down the conversation, because you can't argue with it. You can go outside and look all you want to, and there's not going to be any money on trees. And so it closes the conversation, but it doesn't leave room for discussion, for negotiation, for ideation, brainstorming around how to get the money. So we go around thinking that money is fixed, but it is finite because it doesn't grow like the trees grow or the flowers grow. And so it's of limited supply. There's no such thing as a free lunch. This one, of course, is true again, but it just helps to reinforce that feeling that you have to work extremely hard for everything that you have and that you want. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a hard roll because there's no free lunch. And you can't argue with that. You got to pay for what you want, right? And so it's just programming this belief inside of us that we just have to just kill ourselves in order to feed ourselves. So there's no free lunch. Keeping your head above water. This was in a jingle for a popular TV show, Good Times, right? Keeping your head above water, making a wave when you can. And so this implies that you have to just barely make it, right? When you think about standing in some water and the only thing that's above the water is your head, you are just barely living. You're barely not drowning because your head is just a little bit above water. So it's telling you to just aim for just a little bit because there's not a lot out there. Just aim for enough to not drown, for enough to not be underwater. And make a wave when you can. Sometimes you could make a little splash, but don't live your life as a splash. Just sometimes make a little splash. Something costs an arm and a leg. Kind of similar to money growing on trees, you cannot do anything about this, right? If something costs an arm and a leg, and you're not going to give your arm and your leg in exchange for it, it just shuts down the conversation. I'm not willing to pay my arm and a leg for whatever this thing is that I'm asking for or that I'm wanting for, so I'm just going to not get it. And I'm not going to think about ways to get it. I'm not going to brainstorm any ideas because it is not worth my arm and my leg. We're basically saying that it's too much. It's too much for us. We can't afford it. We don't need it. It's not worth it because it's not worth our arm and our leg. And so we tend to think limited in that respect with how much things cost. And we're trained to not go for things that are too pricey because it's an arm and a leg. Okay, so those are my 4 idioms for money and resources are scarce. The next one is this idea that we can't change. So we hear that a leopard can't change his spots. A leopard can't change his spots. Telling us that we are who we are and we can't ever be or do anything different. Again, it sounds innocent because it's true. Leopards can't change their spots, but it's programming this idea into us is that just accept who you are. Don't try to improve your situation. Don't try to improve your skill set. Just accept your spots. Just be who you are. You can't change what you can't change. You can't change your spots. It's the hand I was dealt with, or just accept the hand you were dealt with. Again, implies that you can't change, that you shouldn't change. Just accept the hand that you were dealt. Life deals out hands, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Just like you can't change your spots, there's nothing that you can do about what life has given to you. But when you're playing spades and the dealer deals out the cards, if you don't have any spades in your hand, you can throw your hand in, because you can't play spades without a spade. It's the same thing with life. You can ask life for a different hand. You don't have to accept the hand that you were dealt with. But we've been told just to accept things. We've been told that we really can't do anything about our situation, that we really can't change. Not only have we been told that we can't change, we've been encouraged not to change. We say things like, it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. That is teaching you to accept what you are now experiencing because you have no idea what else is out there. And whatever else is out there could be scarier and worse than what you currently have. So just stick with what you know. Don't change. Let sleeping dogs lie. Don't wake the dog up. Don't ruffle any feathers. More idioms, right? Just sweep it under the rug, telling you, don't change. Don't question anything. Don't address anything. Don't go after anything. Just let the sleeping dog lie. Just stay where you are. Accept where you are. Don't wake the dog up. Curiosity killed the cat. Don't be curious. Don't ask questions. Don't go for anything other than what you already have. Don't go for anything other than what you already know, because it will kill you. Being curious is bad. So just stay with the status quo. Stick with the status quo. Don't be curious about anything. The last category is that something bad is going to happen. I struggle with this category the most because we live in a society where like bad news is sensationalized and we're always hearing about all the bad things that happen. And so I'm always like, oh my gosh, that could be me. That could be my family. There was the longest time I would drive past a memorial on the side of the road and think, oh my gosh, that could be me. I could die on this street one day. That could be my family. And I had to learn to replace my worrying, replace this tendency to put these issues onto myself with a prayer. And so now when I drive past a memorial on the road, I just say a prayer for the family and the soul that were both impacted at that point. But we've been taught that something bad is always going to happen. We've been taught to wait for the other shoe to drop. And that implies that we're waiting for something bad to happen. We're just waiting for it. And I read that comes from being in an apartment and having someone above you with thin walls. And at night when it's time to go to bed, you hear them take off one shoe. And so you're just patiently waiting for them to take the other shoe off, or the other shoe to drop on the floor, on your ceiling, to know that they're getting ready to go to bed. So that's where that comes from. But we've been taught that we just have to wait for the other shoe to drop. We've been taught that if it's not one thing, it's another. If it's not my health, it's my money. If it's not my money, it's my relationship. It's always something. Again, we're just constantly waiting for the bad thing to happen. We're not waiting for the good things to happen. We're not waiting for money to start growing on trees. We're constantly waiting and in paranoia over the bad things that happen. And it's really hard to enjoy life and to be full of joy and to focus on where you're going and what you want if you're always focused on the bad things. You're always anticipating the bad things, because when it rains, it pours. So when something bad happens, it don't just happen, it happens. I mean, like, it's intense. It's not just a little rain, it's a thunderstorm. And so then again, it's just this paranoia that something really, really bad is going to happen, because when it rains, it pours. And so the last idiom that I have here that I want to spend a little more time on is this idea that the early bird gets the worm. It sounds super innocent. And I have never ever thought anything of this before until recently. I recently heard it, and for whatever reason this time it just spoke to me in a different way. So the early bird gets the worm implies that, or it encourages you to not procrastinate and to go for what you want, because the early bird gets the worm. But here are two hidden meanings that we have been programmed to believe about life. One, we're taught that there's only one worm, because the early bird gets the worm. So that creates a spirit of unhealthy competition. It's me versus you. It's I got to do whatever I got to do to get the worm. I can lie, steal, cheat, because there's only one worm. And if somebody's going to have it, it's going to be me and mine, not you and yours. So there's a separation there. There's a scarcity mentality, and there's a separation and unhealthy competition. And it prevents oneness and connectedness and collaboration. It prevents the idea that there's enough for everyone. There's enough to go around, that we live in an abundant universe. But this makes us paranoid and competitive and unhealthy, uncollaborative ways that separate us and that don't unite us. The other thing that the early bird gets the worm tells us is that you have to be first. And this stops people in their tracks a lot. There are tons of people who want to do things that they look at who's already doing it and they say, I can't do it. I can't do it. I wasn't first. There's already someone doing it. Charlene's already doing the From Caterpillars to Butterflies podcast. I can't do a personal growth podcast because I wasn't first. I wasn't first either. And I struggle with this sometimes too, really wanting to be involved in personal growth and in the personal growth space. And I've been going to a lot of events, and I look at how many people are hosting these events, and I think, gosh, man, I'm too late. I'm too late. There's already enough people doing it. There's already enough competition. I'm too late. But then the beauty is that every time I go to an event, like, I'm constantly learning of new people. You know, I'm constantly being introduced to someone new, or if not them, the fact that they are hosting these events. So one person is Esther Hooks. I know who she is. I have not followed her closely because I don't really know exactly how I feel about the whole channeling thing. But I was at an event recently, and I was talking to an attendee, and he was saying that he was going to be going to an Esther Hicks event the following weekend. And so even though I knew her, I had no idea that she actually hosted events. And so then I went to her website and I saw that she was coming to Houston in April. So now I'm going to be going to an Esther Hicks event in April. But the fact that I'm always learning about someone new who's hosting events and doing personal growth type seminars and things just really geared to move people forward, that lets me know how big the space is. Because even when I think the space is like maxed out to capacity, and I learned that someone else is yet in the space that I thought was already maxed out to capacity, and then I learned that there's still some space there. But we are convinced that we have to be first, and because you're not first, then you're not even going to try. You're going to say that I missed the boat, which is another idiom, right? I missed the boat. I wasn't first. And since there's only one worm anyways, I had better not even try. I better not even go for it. And we hear this a lot with all the statistics that people say, if you're not married by the time you're X years old, your chances of getting married just go down. And so then what do? We think that we've missed our shot, and so we give up on dreams of love, or we settle for something that's less than what we really want because we've been told that we're too late. Thinking that you're too late will lead you to make decisions and to not do things, or to do things that aren't really what you want because you think that there's nothing else for you, that you've missed the opportunity. But you're not too late. You're not too late to have what you want to have. And there's more than one worm. You can go digging in your backyard now and see that there are more than one worm. And there's actually a type of worm, not the earthworm, because I researched it, but there is a type of worm that if you sever the worm, it will split into two, and it will split up to thousands of times if I'm recalling correctly. So even if there is one worm, then all you have to do is just go cut you off a piece of the worm, and then you'll have your own worm. So these are my top idioms that are really impacting how we live our lives, what we think is available to us, what we think our options are, and they impact the decisions that we make. We're deciding to do some things, we're deciding not to do other things. We're deciding that we can't afford certain things without even trying, without even looking for the resources, without even brainstorming ways to get the resources. We have just been taught that we can't afford it and that's just it. Right? We have been taught that we should just be thankful for what we have because children in Africa are starving. And so, again, don't want more than what you currently have. Just be happy that you're not starving. We have been taught that we should stay the same and that we shouldn't grow and we shouldn't change and we shouldn't even try to change. And a lot of times people hold our past over our heads and they say things like, a leopard can't change his spots. You haven't changed. You're who you always been. And that keeps us stuck in the cycle. So I hope that these idioms have gotten you thinking a little bit about the role that they've played in your life, that they've gotten you thinking about some of the things that you have believed for a good part of your life and the impact that they've had on you. What I really want to challenge you to do is to, one, challenge your beliefs, challenge what you think is possible for yourself, but also beliefs are strong. They have a strong hold on us, and they're not easy to just simply flip a switch and you have a new belief. But what I would also encourage you to do is to move in spite of your belief. So I said that I don't really know how I feel about Esther Hicks and channeling from Abraham, but I'm going to go anyways. So even if you still have a deep-rooted belief, because this one podcast isn't going to just completely transform your thinking, you can still take action that is not in alignment with that thinking. So if you're sitting there thinking that, that house that you really want costs an arm and a leg, and you just can't fathom spending an arm and a leg on a house, then I would just encourage you to move forward anyways. You don't have to buy it, but go tour the house. Go do a walkthrough. So don't be so close-minded because of idioms and childhood sayings that have been passed along to you that are leading you to think a certain way, right? And so if you're thinking that you really want to change jobs, but it's better the devil you know than the devil that you don't know, and so you don't really want to rock the boat, I encourage you to, even though you believe that it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know, that you still take action that is in alignment with what you're thinking that you want. So you can still go out and apply for jobs. You can still go for job interviews. So challenge your beliefs. And this is how you can start to reprogram your beliefs, because you're going to challenge them and you're going to find out that it isn't as bad as you thought it was, or that the devil that I didn't know wasn't really a devil. It was a much better opportunity. And as you keep on doing that, and you can start in little ways, but you're challenging these childhood beliefs, you're challenging these idioms, and over time, you're going to learn that they're not founded. You're going to learn that there's enough opportunity for everyone. There's not just one worm that you can share, and that there's space for you and the next person. You're going to start to learn these things, and that's how you will also program reprogram your belief. So one, just work on reprogramming your beliefs. Work on when you catch yourself thinking or saying this, even to other people or your children, stop yourself. Stop yourself from saying that this was just the hand you were dealt, and tell yourself that you're going to ask life for a new hand. So just stop yourself in your tracks when you're thinking these idioms, but also don't be afraid to move forward in spite of what you believe. Ultimately, you get to decide what you believe, but you have to first acknowledge what beliefs have been programmed inside of you. You have to first realize that there are some beliefs underneath the surface that are directing your life. And once you acknowledge that, then you can make the decision going forward of what you believe. And so you can create the life that you want. You can reprogram your beliefs, and you can go after everything your heart desires. You get to choose. So choose wisely.
And now, a moment of meditation. If you're not driving, cooking, or doing anything that requires your full attention, take a deep breath and close your eyes as Charlene leads you into an inspiring meditation.
Take another deep breath. Allow your body to relax. Again, inhale, and on the exhale, feel your body relax even more. Now I want you to imagine or pretend that you are a bird and you're flying in the sky. Scan the area below you. You will notice a space that is the biggest vision you have for yourself. Everything you ever imagined. Go and land in that space. Once you've landed, you'll notice that there are other birds in this space. Birds that were here before you. Birds that have been here longer than you. Say hello to the other birds. Greet them, hug them, acknowledge them. See how welcoming they are, how friendly they are. And now I want you to go digging in the earth beneath you. And as you dig, you find a worm. A worm that represents opportunity and love and resources and money. Keep digging. There goes another worm. And another. And another. Notice all the worms around you. Notice all the opportunities, all the resources, all the love that is here in this space. There's enough for you. There's enough for every other bird here. And as you keep digging, you just keep finding more and more opportunity and resources and love. There's so much. Feel the abundance. Feel the abundance. Feel the joy of being right in the middle of your highest vision. Feel the support of all those who are also here with you, who have similar visions. Feel the satisfaction of knowing that you are surrounded by more than enough. Enjoy being surrounded by more than enough. Now I'm going to count to 3. And when I get to 3, I want you to open your eyes, knowing that there is more than enough for you to have everything you've ever wanted. 1, 2, 3. Feel the abundance. Know that you can create the life you want, and you have all the resources and tools and ideas that you need to do that. And carry this feeling with you for the rest of the day and the rest of your life. Until next time, grow on purpose.
Thanks for listening to the From Caterpillars to Butterflies podcast, your one-stop shop for all things personal growth. For today's show notes and even more tools and resources to help you transform the life you have into the life you love, go to www.fromcaterpillarstobutterflies.com.